Right. So we are here with our friend Larry, who also goes to our church. And Larry, on Sunday, you were the worship assistant, and you also shared some of the story about I'm sorry, was he your husband or partner?
He was my partner. We were in a
Okay.
domestic relationship for 4 years, or 7 years, and then we were in the process of planning a marriage, and in the wintertime. But then, we lost all of our insurance because my employer, once that the gay or same-sex marriages laws was passed, they wouldn't accept a domestic partnership. So we had a choice of either going down to the courthouse and getting married, but that's not what we wanted. We had planned a winter, marriage and up on the mountain and Mount Hood, and it didn't happen. Yeah, I lost him before it was before we could get that done.
Yeah.
So I lost life insurance. I lost everything, with him. So when he passed or when he it was a financial burden on my part, in trying to get. You have no idea you know what it costs to take care of somebody that has passed away.
Yeah. Yeah. So his name is Corey
Co-
McCadden, right?
Correct.
And you made up a day for him too. And so I really just was wanting to come and sit down and hear about him and hear how we can support the day and how we can celebrate it or further the work that you're trying to do. Because I was definite, like, I didn't catch I missed a little bit of the first part, but I was so moved and I was reading the comments go by and people were just so touched by your story and your willingness to share. And so me and Amira were just we're both like, oh, I wonder if Larry would sit down with us. And so we're just really glad that you're here.
Well, thank you. It's a privilege to be here. I struggled with my sexuality for many years, and I was hurt by the evangelical churches. Once I was outed, I was basically outed, from the churches. They tried to, send me through conversion therapy. I went to two of those classes, and I figured out, hey, this is bogus. This is not, you know, the people that were in the classes were hooking up with each other, more than, yeah, when they wasn't supposed to have contact outside of, So and all they wanted basically was money, and it gave me a bad taste of, what was going on, there. So, but then I moved up to Portland and was here, starting all over, living from paycheck to paycheck. And probably maybe 4 years after I moved up here to Portland, I met Corey. And, the first time that we met, we knew that we were life partners. I mean, it was, it was amazing. I mean, I've never, had that, feeling or that, before. And Corey had a background where, um, he was bullied. He came out when he was 13, and I was much much older. When I came or when I was outed. So uh, he was a big help to me. To be able to accept myself, and we learned that um, I was able to to nurture him and show him unconditional love, something that he had never ever seen before. And he wrote about it in his journal, about how our relationship and about how I was the had showed him unconditional love, and he had never experienced that before. And he even talked about it to his grandparents. But when he was 13, he was outed, or he was bullied in the Milwaukee school district. to the point where he had to uh, leave school, and he took a break, and then he went back and got his GED, and he was very, very, very intelligent person. I mean, he was probably one of the most mature and intelligent person for his age, that I'd ever met. But his some of his hobbies or some of his things were, he loved horror movies, and he had all kinds of movies. I mean, I've got them downstairs. I mean, we collected a whole library of movies, and he could spit off to me, the actors, the plots, the directors. I mean, and I can't do that to this day. I have, I have a hard time, remember, but so he was my go-to person, when it came to that kind of stuff. And
what year was it when you guys met?
Oh my goodness. It must have been the late 90s, 90 or 2000.
Okay.
He died in 2016. So yeah, it was around 2000. And he moved in, right away, because basically he had been trying to live with, people on the street, or, friends. And, he had a couple of bad experiences with older guys that lied to him, and, basically, abused him, which, that's, when he met me, that was, another thing that, I'm a strong believer in respect, honesty, integrity. But he was hurt, and, we moved on through it, and we did it, we kind of, he had, the, if he didn't know something, I mean, if he'd go on the internet, I mean, he would research it, and he would come up with the facts, not, like, today with all of the, the other internet, sometimes you don't know what to believe when when you see that, or when you see that on the air. But back then, he would research it, and he had a dream of being, he wanted to, write a movie script. I mean, he had, I've got part of it that he started, still. And I, at the time, was working at a hotel, and we had a group that had come in, that specialized in writing, horror movies. And so I was able to get him into the class, and he could rub shoulders and get networked with some of the people, that did that. So he was, excited about, about that. He had a big heart. I mean, family meant a lot to him, but at the same time, when he got upset, or when, things, within the family, sometimes it caused, some strife, and, he didn't, we didn't talk to them for a while until, but he always came around. I mean, he always, even with his best friend, they had gotten into tiffs before, and, it would last, 2 or 3 weeks. And he would, he would always, come back around and say, hey, life's worth more than, than that. And we, in 2012, we wanted to get out of the apartment living, our condos. We had a place, down near Clackamas Town Center, and having to put up with people next door, people's animals next door barking and everything. We wanted to get our own place. And at that particular time, I was, set up to where, we could do it on a month by month basis, but, coming down with the down payment was terrible. They wanted a lot of money, and we didn't have that, we didn't have access to that. So we started, scraping every penny, and basically ended up, living, in garages, in a house that had only a fireplace for heat. And, we could feel what it was like to be homeless, to a degree. And then, so we finally, made our goal, and was able to, make a down payment on the home in here in, Clackamas. And we moved in December 2013, and we loved it. It was our dream home. I'm still here. I'm not, like I shared on Sunday, is that I'm moving forward, not moving on. And I'll explain that here in a minute. But Corey's birthday is February 5th, and we celebrated his birthday then in 2016 on the 5th, and then 3 days later I was coming home from work, and I came in the house, and I could kind of, the dogs were acting strange a little bit, and I called for him, and he wasn't responding, and I went up and found him in the bedroom with and he had passed. It was obvious. I had spent 20 years in the fire service. I knew when I saw a dead body, I knew when it was a dead body, and whether there was something to revive or not, but it was obvious that he had been there for a little while. And I don't know if that, if I, because this is a dream of mine. Okay. The LGBT community, there's some sexual practices, that end up being, very, very unsafe, when done alone. And that's basically, I didn't want to share that at the church service, but I have a burden, for communication, or to mentor, and to let get the word out, because even in the fire service I went on several calls of it's called traumatic erotic asphyxia, and it was something that we had practiced the breath control together, but alone it's very, very dangerous. And he had promised me, that he would never do it alone. So how many times, you can get by with it, the odds are, and, I had explained to him, being in the fire department, I had seen several of these, and tried to explain how dangerous it was. And that was the accident that took his life, was the erotic asphyxia. And what happened was, the plastic bag got caught in his fingers, and when he passed out, or when he lost that euphoria, his hand got caught, it didn't let go, and he suffocated. So and I have a burden to to the gay and lesbian community, that there are some very dangerous sexual practices that need to be done, not alone, but that there needs to be some supervision. And of course people get to the age where they think they're invincible, and so that's when the accidents happen. But I'm trying to be very transparent. I'm trying to be very open, with you girls. And it's something that, and after Corey passed, one of his best friends, she went to school with him, and her mom teaches health or teaches science and health in, did at the time. She's retired since then, but she was an 8th grade teacher. And she was telling me that this kind of thing, she was having to deal with this traumatic erotic asphyxia with 13-year-olds. I mean, with junior high kids. It had, it had, made its way, think a lot of it's thanks to the internet, but, those young people they don't see the risks, they may not see the risk. And if they do know about the risks, they tend to think that it's not going to happen to me.
Is this your
So,
first time speaking about this out in public?
yeah,
Wow.
yes, yes.
This is an important topic.
It is. And, to get it out, one of Corey's best friends, in fact, he lived with us for a while. He told me that, hey, you need to tell your story. You need to get on a podcast and you need to tell your story. It needs to get out. And I just haven't had the means or didn't know how to go about, putting it all together, for a podcast. I didn't necessarily want to do it on my own because I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't want to do it wrong, and I didn't want to, do it wrong and, and make Corey, to be something that he wasn't, I guess is what I'm saying,
There's no shame here. And I mean, I know I can speak for Rhea. We're just honored that you trust us enough and feel safe with us enough to talk to us about it. And there's no shame in it. And I would help you figure out a way to make this like a movement for you. This should be talked.
Yeah. After it happened, I was thinking, oh man, I'd like to set up a foundation maybe or something, to try to set up some education to the, these sexual practices that are very hazardous. And I even thought, oh man, you're going to see me on Ellen one day, but, the dream, it's still a dream. It's still a dream.
You're still here. You're still.
So,
Yeah.
and there was a lot of hurt, a lot of, on Corey's side of the family, because there was a lot of secrets that he kept from them that, I ended up having to explain or try to explain. And he may not have been on best of terms with some people, in the family too. And so that caused me some issues as to, I didn't think it was my responsibility to have to deal with, things that happened before he died, with them not being on good terms, but then having to explain some of the sexual practices and some of the sexual things that within the gay community, it took a toll on me. And the last 4 years, since he died, I've been very, I've struggled with depression, the first week of February being his birthday on the 5th and then losing him on the 8th. I can't explain, the PTSD, and, the PTSD with his incident ended up triggering PTSD from 20 years in the fire department. And I ended up seeing a therapist, at my doctor's office, which is, kind of normal for, those kind of situations. But, I lost my dad in July after Corey died. And, I didn't go through half the, but I was prepared for it. He was young, or Corey was young. It was, it was the trauma and everything, just knocked you off your feet. I couldn't that night even pull myself together to, try to go break the news to his mom, and the police wouldn't do it either, and which really upset me. But I will say that the Clackamas Fire District #1, they had a chaplain, they had people coming out, they had a team that came out and spent 2 or 3 hours with me here at the home, and the other boys that were living here at the time, and they were tremendous, but that again, not being able to get the word to his mom the night that it happened, caused some real issues as far as, relation with her. But, since then she's come around. She's had some very important or medical problems with her own body, and family becomes a whole is seen in a whole different view. So things are positive that way. But the last 4 years, I'd spend time, I didn't want to move out of the house. This is the place that I feel Corey. I know that he's still part of me, still part of the house. But the times that I have to make decisions, important decisions, whatever they might be, I'll drive up to the cemetery and, sit, next to the niche. We're going to be, put together. We have a niche with his name and my name, and I'll be cremated when I pass, and I'll be right next to him. And this is the kind of person I am. I not only bought the niche for him and I, but there's a niche right next door, right next to us, because there's a couple of close friends of Corey's that they know that if something was to happen, or after I am gone, that niche next to us is there for them if they choose, to do so. So, because Corey would want that. He'd want to be close to his friends. But these last 4 years, like I said, has been, very, as far as February has been very, very, dark week, the first week or so, through the 8th. But people kept saying, to me, you got to move on, Larry, you got to move on, or some of Corey's friends, family, I would, they even wanted me to sell the house. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. That's where he's part of me. I mean, he's here. I have some of his remains, in my bedroom, and the moving on always bothered me, because when I thought about moving on, it meant to me like I was going to move on with somebody else, or move on, which that might happen, if I was to ever meet somebody, it might, but that person is going to understand that Corey plays a big part in our relationship. So the moving on, kind of put a bitter taste in my mouth. And at the time, we weren't involved, really, in the church. I mean, I had been burnt so bad and told that I was going to burn in hell, and that, it was a choice. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's not a choice. It's in your DNA. And there's a lot of parents out there that, think that they're doing the tough love and pushing people out into the street, or, out of the house, because, they come out, or because they, are, their sexuality is, of the same sex, or, or transgendered, whatever, and back then, it wasn't really socially accepted. That was part of the reason that, I left the fire department, is that, when I was outed, it was, being gay was not socially accepted, in the community. And, but luckily I had been there long enough and had, enough whiskers that I was able to, to keep my pension. And, that's, been the blessing. I mean, God, he knew what was going on, but I had, we had, and Corey, he had gone to, to church and to, Camp Tadmore. And that's where, when we put our notes together, I was a counselor back then, and he was at Camp Tadmore at the same time I was a counselor. So our paths had, had crossed, and we didn't even know it. But
well, can you tell us more about February 8th and what that day is going to be for you?
oh, absolutely. And so the last 4 years, very depressive. I've decided, and thinking, about it, I thought February 8th, instead of you got to move on, I'm going to move forward. And February 8th, I'm asking, it's a holiday for me. It's the Corey McCadden Day. I'm asking people to do random acts of kindness, to whomever, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a card. The LGBTQIA, community, Corey would, love it if you, showed, a random acts of kindness to, a young person that way. We had a dream of having a house. If we ever won the lottery, we was going to open a house for, these kids to wash their clothes, take showers. And this is what, what bothers me. According to the Covenant House, there's 70% of those young people or those kids that are on the street. There's, are on there, because of their sexuality or, and have been forced to do that. And a lot of people you don't know the story behind the face. I see the faces and I, wonder, but, the drugs and the alcohol, they're trying to, that's their cover up for reality. It's not their choice. I mean, they don't want to be doing that, but they're forced into it because being on the streets, and the reason, the root problem that they're on the streets, is because of their sexuality, and people won't accept them for who they are. And, Corey would love it if, if bought a warm beverage for, one of those street kids. And there's a lot of them that are gay, lesbian, and, we had acquaintance, and a guy and a girl. The guy was gay, the girl was straight, but in order to stay safe and to, make it look good, they, stayed together, they camped together, they, because they didn't want to be, come across as, being gay. And we opened our facilities to them both, and they once a week would come over and wash their clothes, laundry, take a shower. And the only rules that we had was no drugs on the house, none of the. And brings another point, that here in Portland, the heroin, all this kid had to do, all he had to do was, dial a number on the phone, and there was hits of heroin on the street corner within 10 minutes. And they required, 2 of those a day. So they were out there selling their bodies or whatever, and it's not their fault, that, the root problem, came back from, mom, dad. If you're thinking about having a baby, are you willing to, to raise a gay or lesbian child?
Yeah,
That's
you
what
absolutely have to be.
Absolutely, absolutely. But
One
we
thing
weren't.
I
They,
do want to say, though, also about these kids being turned out on the streets, and this is something that, a lot of us have been talking about all summer. When we go out there to fight the white supremacists, a lot of times, if we don't show up to tell them that they don't belong, they will go through the streets hunting down visibly queer and trans kids to beat up because they know that they make easy targets. And this has been a long history in not just Portland, but a lot of cities.
Mhm.
You have violent bullies who will go around looking for these kids on the street to abuse and terrorize them because they already know that the kid's parents, are they even looking for them? They're probably a queer kid, so their parents
Mhm.
probably don't care.
And
And
that's why these kids are staying together as a couple,
mhm,
male and female,
Mhm.
so they don't come across as that. And this young man that that we had acquaintance with, he started at Portland State in an architectural classes, and once he got the hooked on the heroin, he was gone. I mean, it was over. And I even called his mom and dad and tried to get him. I was willing to sponsor him into a rehabilitation, but those kids have got to want to, and that's the whole thing. They're forced into it, or they have to do it, and then they get hooked, and it's to the point. They have to get to the point where they want the help, to go to rehab, and then if you can get them into rehab, we couldn't even get them in into a program. So because there was such a waiting list.
Yeah, even within the foster care system, we're going through the foster care system right now, and
Mhm.
we've taken the classes prior to like 4 years ago, and the need for parents for the LGBTQ teenagers is like phenomenal. They need so much support in that area because people do not want to help those kids.
I would love to, but at my age, I don't know that I'm capable, that I would be, the best fit.
Yeah.
But that's why February 8th, the Corey McCadden Day, to do something special, make them feel special. You don't know the story behind the face.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know that you want to, because this is something that you're doing random acts of kindness, out of the love of your heart.
Hmm.
And Corey, he would love that. He would, he would, if he was here, I mean, he would. And the other thing that I didn't get to share on Sunday, and even after the service on Sunday, I talked to a couple of people on the online that said that they were going through some whatever it might be, trauma, within the family, divorce. Uh, but another lady had lost her son, and I don't know the details and everything, but this is something that I think that the UCC has helped me in not only affirmation, but I'm a strong believer that you need to do what you can do and let God take care of the rest. That's where the miracles happen. You know, um, and the thing that I have learned over the last 4 years, dealing with family and friends, is that you can get bitter or you can get better. It's your choice.
That's right.
amen. Larry, do you have any recommendations on like websites or books on like sexual safety? And
I would strongly recommend. There's a group that that I'm too old to be involved in their things, because it was started by young people down in this Southern California area, but it's called Beloved Arise. Every Monday night there's a youth meeting, um, and I would strongly recommend that to to kids that are struggling with and it doesn't matter, all faiths all faiths are included. The our Jewish friends, our Mormon friends, all everybody's included there, and they meet virtually right now on Monday nights. The other one that when it deals with people's mental, emotional, and this is something that I've put off because of my hip surgery was but now once I'm fully recovered, I'm going to get involved in the Trevor Project. And the Trevor Project is something that that it has all kinds of resources for everyone from grandparents or parents all the way down to the kids' mental health. And that's what I want to do is I want to take the training and work or dedicate a couple hours a week for my home answering those kind of calls or text messages or within the social media. And the other thing that as people are or kids are dealing with their sexuality and their and something that helped me so much with my family was the Matthew Vine Project. Matthew Vines, Mathew Vines, Vines, and he's written a book, God and the Gay, God and the Gays. If you read that book or watch one of his 1 hour YouTube, changed my mom's whole perspective of how, because she was blaming herself that that she dropped me or it was because I was sexually abused at 16 on my granddad's farm by another older teen. No, it was always there. It's in your DNA. There's nothing you can do to change it. You were made that way. Be proud of it. And then of course the group that you guys are also part of is especially like older adults and people that are they're coming out. They might be married, and, but Trey's Safe Place on Facebook. There was a couple of people that I referred them to that particular Facebook group after Sunday's session. So does that answer the question?
Yes, totally. That's so helpful, and I think those are great resources for people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I am just so touched that you were willing to sit down with us and share all of this with us, especially given that's such a hard topic. Like, sexual stuff and like especially like kink type stuff is so taboo
I
in the
know.
church, and then even secular society is still like, we're not going to talk about that.
I mean, yeah,
So
and Corey's mom is that way. She had no clue, and and some of the things that were brought up, she I had to draw a picture, and some things I just left alone. I didn't have the authority to be, doing that because, again, it was. I think that age group or that demographics of people that grew up in those times and they're now parents or grandparents and the I was so involved with the living my life for trying to please other people back then. I was involved in the church. I was a youth leader. I was an intern youth pastor for a while, and I had a gay guy or a couple of gay kids in the youth group, and they would share it with me. But I had there's nothing I could, because I knew they would get ostracized, and I couldn't share my because I was trying to live my life to please family, friends, and it catches up with you for a while, and then when you finally let go and get that off of your back, it's like, wow. And that's what I loved about Corey is that, he did it at an early age, at 13, and didn't have to deal with all of the games people play.
Yeah. Yeah. I was 18 when I came out, and it was rough. And it got rough until I started to say, hey, you may be my immediate family, but I don't have to deal with you if you can't learn to respect me. And I just would just kind of distance myself for a while until slowly people start coming around and realizing, like, okay, this is real. This is who they are.
My
So
brother is a minister of marriage in a very well-known church in Bend, Oregon, and Matthew Vines, in his book, bridged the gap, between our relationship and the quote unquote church or religion can be very I mean, it messed me up for years, 20 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
It still messes me up. We were just talking about it before we hopped on. We were talking about how I'm struggling with my Black people in this topic as well. Which I love the link that we all share. We all go to the same church, the very open, affirming, loving the LGBTQ community church. So
I didn't know if I could get through that without starting to cry on Sunday. So, I mean, my voice quivered a couple of times, but, I took a breath. And Amira, you've helped me a lot, in being able to stop, breathe, close my eyes, and to,
that's awesome. And you did great. You did. I mean, me and Rhea both were like, we're texting, we gotta get Larry. All the comments, it was just like a love fest. And then right after, and then Pastor's sermon was so beautiful. And
exactly.
Oh, they're taking me to church today.
He didn't know what I was saying. He didn't know what I was, because he had texted me in the middle of the week and said, would you help me with the service on Sunday? And I said, yeah, I'd be honored to. And then I remember what the topic was. And I said, you know what? It's time to move forward.
That's right.
And I texted him, or I sent him an email. I said, Pastor, can I have a couple of, a few minutes, sometime in our hour? I have something that's very relevant to the healing process. And, it wasn't planned. Him and I didn't plan it. I mean, it was meant to be.
Even better then, because it was amazing. If folks haven't seen it, you should go.
Also, it's on the, my part, Adam called me last night and asked permission to put, just my part onto the, so, it's supposed to be there today. Cool. And then I have a couple of flyers that later on in the week I'm going to put out on, my Facebook page, and Adam's got copies of it as well. So,
and so do I. We're going to share it as well that day.
Yeah. Yeah, so, February 8th, the Corey McCadden Day. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Do something, show the love to your gay and lesbian community.
Yes, gay, lesbian, trans, all of it, non-binary.
All of it.
Everybody. Yeah. We love you so much, Larry.
Thank you
so much for being here.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
It's a privilege.
It was our privilege as well. For real.
I'm very honored. Thank you.